I love hearing someone else read it out loud because I always pick up on something new that I didn't pay attention to when I was preparing for this. And whose head was on the coin? Emperor. And what was the emperor's title? Well, they didn't answer that, did they? They just said emperor. Actually, on the coin that Jesus was given, it said Son of God on there. Kind of interesting. Our money says, in God we trust. Do we trust in God? We'll find out. So who wants to argue about taxes now? The kids have left, so we can't argue. Okay, so we'll take a break. We won't argue about taxes. Let's do 10 acts from a highway to heaven. Act 1, getting on the highway. I was pulling onto a highway this weekend with a roundabout. It had a little roundabout, in Vail, they have these little roundabouts to get on the highway, and I hop on the roundabout, except that this guy in a Volvo just straight through. Didn't know I was there. Didn't, like he had never been on a roundabout in his life. You've ever seen that in our roundabout? Someone just drives through. He wasn't trying to be a jerk, I don't think. I really don't. I think he even at some point realized what he had done, driving in front of me, cutting me off, making me hit my brakes and all that stuff. I think he realized it, but, not paying attention isn't that much better than just being a jerk. That just shows you don't care enough about other people to pay attention, which is halfway there. But at least he wasn't trying to hurt anybody, and his ignorance just made it more likely that others might get in a car accident or suffer. But he's not trying to hurt anyone, so that's Act 1. Act 2, get on that highway, driving along, and I come to that minivan. It's always a minivan, just sitting in the left lane, going 62 miles an hour, just sitting there. Maybe you sit behind her for a few seconds, and I'm waiting. I just kind of nudging her, like, get over. Your lane's over there. It's free. It's clear. Go that way. I can go this way. This is your lane. This is my lane. Trying to convince her to go where she belongs, but nope. I got to pass on the right. And so I pass on the right. And what do you all do when you pass on the right? You know, she's just sitting there with her hands on 10 and 2. She's listening to Christian rock, just jamming out, not aware of anything going on, totally clueless. She's following all the rules that she knows and that she's aware of to be a good person. Following all those rules, but she is oblivious to the world around her, the real world around her. I don't care what her excuse is. I'm not really concerned about what's in her heart. She might be praying right now. Get out of the left lane, lady. She's not a jerk, but her ignorance is so hard to deal with. But you know who is a jerk? Is eventually we get to some traffic because traffic happens. And I'm going over Loveland Pass, going down Loveland Pass. 2-lane little mountain road, cruising along. I'm going the speed limit, but there's a little flurries just like today. Certainly not going any faster. There's no guardrail over there. It's 100 feet down, maybe 200 feet down. So this car comes up on me and just right around me. We talked about this last week, 2 weeks ago. A car flying around me down this canyon. This was more dangerous. Car flies around me. Made me sick to my stomach. He only gets about 100 feet before he has to slow down for another car, so I have this nice little sense of schadenfreude, where I was like, yeah, thanks, buddy, there you go. You get to stop. That was really worth it to make me so worried I was going to fly off the road. But then his friend, driving a big truck, it's always a big truck, comes ramming up behind me, lights right there. And you just know he's got bumper stickers on the back of his truck. You just know that they're the kind of bumper stickers that you can't even show your grandma back home. Some of you are grandmothers. You don't even want to look at these bumper stickers. But he keeps pushing and making me nervous. And inadvertently, I'm going faster than I want down some big curves on a dangerous road. Eventually, he does fly by. Once we get back on I-70, he flies by with a one-finger wave. And I'm sorry. I didn't realize this was your road, buddy. He was a jerk. Now, last week we said Jesus wants us to forgive. Or at least, maybe I'll back away from that a little bit. And I think Jesus wants us to cultivate a forgiving attitude. But Jesus does not always want us to forgive right away. Sometimes things take time. Not driving, that's fine. But there are things in the world that are more dangerous and hurtful than driving. On my bad days, I just can't handle the ignorance of people in the world. And there is no chance that I can forgive people who intentionally hurt each other. On my bad days, I just can't handle the people who don't care and they just run through the world like it's all set up for them. On my better days, I have some where I can remind myself, there before the grace of God. On my better days, I can remember the times that I've been the one who's gone through a roundabout. On my better days, I can remember the times that I was daydreaming in the left lane. I can try to build a little peace in the world with a little peace in my heart. Except sometimes peace takes some disquietude. Sometimes in our world, peace takes work and challenge and struggle and fighting and arguing, even when the kids are going to sing to us. Acts 6. Throughout Jesus' life, he was softly encouraging regular people to be more peaceful, teaching them, praying with them, breathing with them, being calm, teaching calmness. Regular people. I think there's only one other pastor in here. So when I say regular people, Jesus taught, and anyone else a politician? No? Okay, other than you, Jesus spent most of his life teaching all of you people how to softly deal with the spiritual side of forgiveness and depth and grace. Meanwhile, at the same time, throughout his whole life, leading right up to his death, through the donkeys, through the palms, even as his spirit lives on today, Jesus was directly in conflict with the powers of the world that hurt people. To the jerks, he was not soft. Hypocrites was the one you used. Den of robbers. What that means, den of robbers, the translation there, is hideout. It's a hideout for people who have stolen. It really means hideout. Just like in the Old West, when someone steals a train and they go find a cave and they hide out in there. That's what Jesus is talking about these religious people like you and me who are hiding out in our churches with all our money or our power or our authority or whatever it is that we're hiding from the rest of the world. And he says, you brood of vipers, you den of thieves. To the people holding up the norms of racism and sexism and economic injustice, Jesus challenged their assumptions. He challenged their arguments. He pushed them to be aware. You have heard it said, but I tell you. Throughout Jesus' life, especially in the week leading up to his death, which is so often raised to such spirituality that we forget the point of it, Jesus fought with religious leaders and political leaders to stop being jerks, and he challenged us all to stop being ignorant about what lane we are in and who we are running off the road. The Bible is full of stories, one after the other after the other. In this case, Jesus comes into Jerusalem that last fateful week and says, here is the good news. The kingdom of God is near. The kingdom of God is here. You all know that the world does so much to endanger and oppress people, especially the most vulnerable. They get the rawest deal. The world is set up with so many rotten values that take advantage of people, and many of us unconsciously, all of us unconsciously, hold on to some, and we get so defensive when someone questions them. And Jesus says, there is another way. There is a path. There is a road. There is a highway toward God's kingdom. There is another way, a revolution of peace and justice. It will be hard to change the world because it is hard to change our hearts. But imagine what the world would be like if God's rule came to full fruition. Not just pushing racism away, but no stigma attached. Not just no more hate crimes, but no need to teach our children about inclusion. Not just no more abuse of those without power, but a constant attempt to take care of everyone in need. If God's rule came to fruition, and that's what Jesus wants us to enact with our hearts and in the world, society would be different, politics would be way different, and the economic system would be completely different than anything we know. And that is why throughout Jesus' ministry, and especially in the last week of his life, he is engaging in conversations about economics. He is challenging the ruts of religion, and he is offering a new vision of community. 7. If you are thinking right now that Jesus is only concerned with how we feel and whether we're saved and if we act nice enough, or if you think that it's only up to Jesus to challenge the powers that be, and that faith has nothing to do with protecting the least of these, if you think the good news should just be spiritual, and the Christian churches should never get involved with things that happen in the political realm, I disagree. 8. Well, let's go back and figure out why I disagree. Because preaching class always tells us to never disagree in the sermon with our congregation. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. I don't know. But Jesus is always guiding us to transform our hearts in the world. Every way we can, all the time. That's our job as people of faith. If some issue that we care about, like the least of these maybe, gets pulled into the political ping pong game, that's what it is, a ping pong game, and if we still care about it, yeah, that gets awkward. It gets really awkward. But I do not ignore what Jesus wants just because CNN takes it up in secular language. We do not ignore the kingdom of God just because it is controversial and awkward. Faith does not ignore justice just because politics gets in the way. If Jesus came back today and saw half of the church fighting for things he never said, and he comes back today and sees the other half of the church neutering itself because of some separation, or it offends some folks, and if Jesus came back today and saw half the church fine with vulnerable people being taken advantage of, and the other half lacking the courage to stand up for their faith, he would look at that and he would say, what's the point? What was the point? Jesus dying on a cross is a theological issue between God and your sin. Jesus getting nailed to the cross has everything to do with challenging the collective sin that we all take part in. 8. I believe this congregation actually does a hell of a job working with politics as a congregation. I do. Through all the difficult conversations and people who have left in the last few months, I think we do a darn good job. You might be uncomfortable, you might be nervous, you might yell at me after this, but compare that to the rest of America right now in the culture that we live in, where it's all anger and sides and battle and distrust and demonization. It is messy to be in a community where people support different policies and parties and ideologies, but where else in America can messy people be together other than here? Hiding from issues will not bring hope. Silence does not build peace. The only way to move forward toward the kingdom of God, if that's what we want, is to be messy together with civil dialogue and listening to each other, with humility in our beliefs and forgiveness in places grounded on faith. We take that into the world when we master it here. Democrats cannot create heaven. I promise you they cannot. Republicans do not have any handle on the good news that is just theirs. Independents and libertarians and Greens have no claim on God's truth. It is up to the church. It is up to you. It is up to us to lead the world back to love. 9. What the heck does that have to do with Jesus and taxes? And oh, darn it, we're back to taxes. You know, historians don't have any like etchings or papyrus of Roman budgets. Nothing in the historical records that shows what Romans spent on highways and military and schools and all those things. If something like that showed up, if a document came up and said, this is the Roman budget, let's say it was dated like 30 CE, maybe 32 or 33 CE, right when Jesus is walking around. If such a document existed and it said in the Roman time, let's cut all the services we can to children and elderly and sick and women and veterans and environment and anyone who might be in danger and need a little help. If Caesar proposed that in, let's say, 33, what do you think Jesus would have done? He'd probably push back. He'd tell stories about how God values the little people. He would tell stories about disarming violence. He would tell stories about putting away our swords. He would tell stories about facing military power. He'd probably argue with the politicians and the religious leaders who just bow and say okay to whatever the budget says. He'd probably argue so much. I think Jesus would argue so much that he'd probably lose that argument, as Christians often do. But that's not what happens in this story. We do not have a story about Jesus arguing about a budget. What we have is this story, arguing about taxes. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, give unto God what is God's. And in this story, in that one brilliant line, Jesus acknowledges two things. One, we are part of the system. You can complain about it all you want. We're part of the system, all of us. There's no getting out of taxes in this world, even if we disagree about how governments spend our tax money. Has anyone ever disagreed about how a government has spent our tax money? Ever in the last, ever? Yeah. Always. Given that we live in a world where we give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, what can we do? That's where Jesus' wisdom comes out. Seems like today, a lot of religious, anti-government folks seem to believe that certain public programs, things like supporting the poor, those are wasteful and shouldn't be the responsibility of government funding. To that, I say, okay, if that's the case, if that's where we're moving, then my guess, this is just my guess, optimistic as I can be, My guess is that if America passes a budget or changes our tax codes in ways that makes life harder on the least of these, brings more people to the food pantry, brings more homeless people up here, then obviously millions of dollars, perhaps billions of dollars, will end up in offering plates around this country because people think, well, who's going to care for the poor? It must be churches. So people will automatically start giving money to churches. Good luck. That's what I heard. I mean, if this is a country that's supposed to be founded on Christian values that doesn't prioritize the poor in the government and expect churches to do it, okay, then that's up to us. That's on us. I accept that. I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. That's on us. So if it's up to us, either we plan to do that all together, and churches all over are going to start filling the offering plates, or maybe Jesus doesn't really care about justice, maybe, or maybe we don't really care about justice. 10. All of us at one time or another have driven through a roundabout. All of us at one time or another have forgotten to pull back in the proper lane. All of us at one time or another have been ignorant about how our actions and our beliefs impact other people and their lives. All of us do that. All sides, all ideologies. We are all guilty. But none of us have the right, especially as people of faith. If you don't want to be a person of faith, you have whatever rights you want. But if you want to be a person of faith who follows a man who was nailed to a cross because he fought for vulnerable people to be treated well, none of us have the right to plow through life ignoring injustice. None of us have that right, if we care at all about the kingdom of God, to push others out of our way or ignore them. Instead, we have the responsibility, and I would say we have the honor, we have the gift, we have the blessing of being able to follow Jesus by changing our hearts and by changing the world. May it be so.